Hello, thank you for joining me. This is our video number 2 in our series, how to create a simple representation of a switch plate, something that we see almost every day. And we're going to be modeling that in SolidWorks. And with the previous video, we showed you a little bit of kind of a run through of what we're going to be doing with this model and some of the features involved with it. And we're going to start sketching this now, and we're going to be putting this together in a step-by-step approach. So the way we have to do things in the lab is we have to open up our own template files, which are really part files or assembly files, drawing files, in order to work with the computers in the lab, because the computers in the lab won't allow you to establish your own profile, which is unfortunate. So we have this little bit of a workaround, but typically you would go to a file new when you're working on your own, and I have all my template files that I like. My part ANSI inch is the book calls it. I just assumed that name. And various different drawing files for various different customers too. But the way we have to do these things in the lab, this is the way we're going to do it. We're going to, and you've already established your part file by now, your part template file. You just have to open that up. So we're going to go to File, we're going to Open, and I'm going to go to my template folder. This is going to be under Flash, under Templates, so I'm going to open up part inch, ANSI. And then the first thing, and the next thing you do, the second thing you need to do is you have to go and save it. So we're going to go ahead and save it, put in the appropriate folder, which is going to be my week 2 folder. And I'm going to call it Switch Plate-2. I've already started that, but I'm going to go ahead and overwrite that. And then when it says save, it says yes, or I want to replace it, and yes, I do. So now we need to think about the orientation of our model. The switch plate, when we typically look at the front of the switch plate, is actually going to be the front. So you think about its orientation in the model, you need to take a few moments just to think about that. So once you get started in the model, you want to make sure that you have the same orientation that you would anticipate either yourself or other people to be considered as the proper orientation of that part. So because we're looking at the profile of the switch plate on the front, we're going to choose the front plane. Choose front. We're going to go to the center rectangle. If it's not chosen for you up here, you can take that pull down arrow and choose the correct one. The two most common ones are going to be the corner rectangle and the center rectangle. We use the center rectangle a lot in this class. So we're going to choose that. And when you do that, what it does is it takes that front plane and makes it normal to makes it parallel with the screen, so we can see what we're doing. And normally you would go in the middle here and extrude it out. So you see some dimensions out there that are kind of associated with it. They're grayscale in the background, which means they're not going to be automatically added, but we could over here click on this and have it actually add dimensions for us. So let's try that again before we actually place it. We could have it actually add those dimensions for us. It'll put those in there. And what we're going to do is kind of get it rough, get it somewhat close, which is going to be about 4.5 inches by 2.75 inches. And then when we do that, put in appropriate values in here. This is going to be 4.5 and then 2.75 on the bottom. And then, yeah, now we have our sketch. From here we can go to Features, Extrude Boss Base. We're going to make that go out 1/8 of an inch. And when we think about this, what we want to do is we want to maintain the plane, the front plane from the wall, to be also coincident with the front plane of the switch plate. So we're going to extrude the volume out towards us. We're going to make that 0.125. And green check mark. And there's our piece. Now, part of my template file here is I already have a color to it, the appearance. We can make that whatever color we like. But for now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign a material. So I'm going to right click on that, go to Edit Material. I'm going to choose some sort of plastic for that. So let's scroll down. I'll go down here to Plastics. And a common plastic could be ABS, so let's go ahead and choose that. And we're not going to change any of these settings here, so we're going to go to Apply and Close. And right now it's white, so I changed it from yellow to white. You normally would have a gray color to it. So I'm going to go back to something that probably isn't quite white, but maybe something that's a lighter color, maybe a lighter orange perhaps, just to be different. So green check mark. So there's our base extrude. I'm going to call that the base rather than the stock name that SolidWorks gives you. I'll just call that the base, and then we have our sketches associated with that. Let's go back to the sketch and talk about that just a little bit. Right now we have our center rectangle. But let's talk about how that rectangle is put together. If we go back to the center rectangle, do not choose the origin as a place to start. It's always a good idea to do so. You'll notice that the rectangle now is blue. It isn't fully defined. But let's just talk about how a center rectangle actually comes together. We could take that rectangle, it's got a whole lot of flexibility to it. That means, because the lines are blue, and because we have the dimensions on here, we can't really stretch it. But it does have the ability to move around. We can take these dimensions to delete it, and now we have the ability to stretch it, and mold it, and move it around. And if we were to take off some of these other sketch relationships in here, we can actually get even more flexibility. If we were to take out this vertical relationship in here, then we can take this line and stretch that out. Take this horizontal one out here, and that one will become longer, and the thing gets more and more skewed as we go. But what we want to do more than anything else with a model like this, if it's got some very specific dimensions on it, so we're going to make sure we put those dimensions in there and the sketch relationships in there in order to fully define our model. So a lot of these relationships are added as we go. It automatically is going to assume a vertical and a horizontal relationship for those lines in that center rectangle. It's just part of that center rectangle command when we initiate it. But there's some other weird ones in here too. You notice that if you look in here, we do have a point in here. And that point is actually coincident with this line. If you click on that line, you can see, or click in the sketch relationship down here. It's associated with that point and the center lines there. And this sketch relationship also involves a coincident relationship between that center line and that point. So if we were to delete these, you'll notice that the point actually comes off those lines. So we're going to take that point, we're going to, and if you approach another line in here, it doesn't have to be the center lines, is that it's going to establish a relationship here in here. Yellow means a preview, so we have a preview of the sketch relationship that's going to be applied there, which is going to be a coincident relationship. And then the orange line, the line color for orange, means that that line has been selected. So the point's been selected and that line's been selected. We can do the same thing down here. As we drag that point towards that other line, then we'll do the same thing. And that's what that point does. It may not seem really clear at first what it's doing, but that's really what that point does when you have a center rectangle. It's right there in the middle. So we can too do this as an alternative in here. Click on that point, click on that line, and then go over here to our Properties Manager and make those coincident. So now we have those relationships back in here that we had before. So now we can take that point and drag that to the origin, or as an alternative, click on that point, click in the origin, and make those coincident over here in the Properties Manager. So the only thing that's black here, and it's really hard to see, the only thing that's black here is that point. So that point is fully defined to the origin, but nothing else is. We still have some flexibility. We can no longer move our center rectangle off of the origin, so we have some constraints in here. And you'll notice that we have a brand new sketch relationship in here. And that sketch relationship is going to be the coincident relationship with the point and the origin. So it's really kind of hard to see, but you can still see the pink dot there, the pink point, and there's an assumption back there that the origin is going to be selected also. So now if we put our dimensions in here, 4.5 and 2.75 in the bottom, and we rebuild this, now we have a pretty good start. So I think that's enough for this video. We're going to add some more features to this in our subsequent videos, so please join me for those.